I'm Gus Suckup, and I saw the Beatles play in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Monday, September the 14th, 1964. It was my first concert I ever went to. That summer of '64, word had spread in Pittsburgh that the Beatles were going to be including Pittsburgh on their tour. And so everyone was excited about getting a ticket to go see the Beatles. And as it would happen, my sister and three of her friends got tickets through one of their fathers who had some connections in Pittsburgh. And so the four girls were planning to go to see the Beatles on the 14th of September. And that had been percolating most of the summer. And we had found out that they were going to go. They had tickets, and so the day came, and my mother and father and I, we were having dinner that night. My sister had gone off to have an early dinner with her friends, and they were going to go ahead and have dinner and then head on downtown to the Civic Arena, where they'd get their seats at the Civic Arena and watch the Beatles. Well, that night, we were having dinner, and there was a little TV that we had in our breakfast area where we were having dinner, and the news was all about the Beatles. Pictures of them arriving in Pittsburgh at the airport. And so the talk that night was about the Beatles, and my mother finally said, sometime through dinner, let's go downtown and see whether we can see the Beatles, maybe in their limo, coming or going. And so my dad agreed, and that was exciting for me. And so after dinner, we went downtown and got to the Civic Arena. And my parents, for some reason, agreed that I could get out of the car while they went and parked the car. And so I got out and started walking around the Civic Arena, and the whole place was just mobbed with people. People were excited that the Beatles were in town. So I'm going around the Civic Arena waiting for my parents. I was just wandering around, just taking in all the excitement. And I'm walking past this one door, and this door opens up, and this fellow steps out, and he's got some cameras around him on his neck. And I said to him, kind of in a half-hearted way, jokingly, but also serious, I said, can you take me in with you, and I'll help you with your cameras. And he laughed, and he knew what I was asking. And he said, no, I can't, but I can give you a ticket. And I was kind of dumbfounded. So he reaches into his pocket and gives me a ticket. And he says, here, I'm on my way out, but here's a ticket. So I was stunned, and I take the ticket, and I'm walking to rendezvous where my parents were going to be, and I meet up with them, and I said to my mother, I said, I've got this ticket to go see the Beatles. And she didn't believe me at first, and then I showed her the ticket, and she said, that's amazing. So it's about 8:30. I think the concert started at 8. It's probably about 8:30 now. I take the ticket, I go down to a door, there's a service ramp. I go down to the service ramp entrance, and I show the fellow at the door my ticket, and his eyes get real big because he's wondering how I got that ticket, this 11-year-old kid. But he lets me in, and he has another usher take me to my seat. And my seat was to the left side of the stage, and it was on the ground level, and there was set up chairs or folding chairs, and I was in the third row of the folding chairs. And no one else was around me. And I just stood there and sat down because they were transitioning from the warm-up bands to the Beatles. And all of a sudden, the lights were already off. The Beatles are announced. They come out and the place just goes up. It was deafening. I went like this to protect my ears. It was just really loud. And they start playing right off the bat. And I remember about 2 or 3 things about the concert. Was I'm sitting there, and I'm the only one in this one section. Um, but at one point, it was so loud that I had a hard time hearing what song they were singing. And the other thing was, at one point, Ringo was not sure what they were about to sing, so he did a little flourish on his drums to get Paul's attention. And Paul turns around and goes up closer to Ringo and tells him what they're going to sing. And then the other thing I remember during the concert was I'm standing there, and now I'm on my feet and waving my arms. And at one point I waved my arms, and George Harrison, Paul's singing, he's at the mic, and George Harrison turns towards where I am at the end of the stage, and he hears me, he sees me rather, and I'm waving my arms, and he nods to me, acknowledges that I'm waving to him, and he nods his head to me. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So afterwards, the concert's over, and the audience, they're clapping. They want an encore, which did not come. So the house lights go on, and everyone leaves. I rendezvous with my mom and dad. We go home. I have not done my homework for the next day. It's a Monday, and Tuesday's another school day. So I'm up in my room, and my sister comes home. We got home before she did. And I hear my mother downstairs saying, how was the concert? And she said, oh, it was a good concert. But we had seats way up in a balcony area, and we saw the Beatles, but it was far away. And my mother said, well, go upstairs and ask your brother what he did tonight. So she comes on up, and she says, what did you do tonight? And I said, I saw the Beatles. And I think I still had my ticket stub at that point. And she was both, I think, irritated that her younger brother had a opportunity to see the Beatles at the last minute, but she also laughed about how things like that happen and unexpectedly happen. And we had a good joke about that for a couple of days afterwards. But the next day at school, everyone was excited about the Beatles. And I remember I told one fellow I went to see the Beatles, and he didn't believe me. But it was the start of my experiencing what it was like to go to a rock concert. And the first one I ever went to was to see the Beatles.